never a dull day at West Ham, and we've got the news today that Niclas Fullkrug is about to return to Germany to try and get some treatment on an injury which evidently just won't heal. This is the injury that he sustained on international duty for Germany, which supposedly was going to keep him out for 3 weeks. That was way back at the start of September. We were told that maybe it was more of a fitness issue than actually an injury issue, and quite possibly he would be back on the bench for the Tottenham game. That didn't happen. I think now you can probably safely rule out any suggestion that I'll be back on the bench for the Manchester United game, which is calling into question even more so the wisdom of West Ham to sign this player. Now, I was due to this point to be doing a video, which I'm actually going to do over on Patreon for our Amateur Scout series, which is going to be taking a little bit of a closer look at his injury record. But suffice to say, he's been out for a significant period of time. I mean, you're looking at sort of since 2019, and I think the reason that it's taken from that point is because that's when he started to break down a lot with injury. He has missed an incredible amount of football. Now, this is hot on the heels of a report yesterday from Alex Crook, which suggested that Julen Lopetegui was very, very unhappy with the not so much. It didn't say. Let me get this right. I don't want to misquote anybody. It didn't suggest that he was unhappy with the purchase of Fullkrug, but Lopetegui had demanded that the West Ham sign a striker, basically in January. I think it's fair to say that Fullkrug was not Lopetegui's signing. We understand this. This feeds back into the dynamics of who signed who. Tim Steidten and Lopetegui and David Sullivan, they all like to sign a player, don't they? But I think Lopetegui has now said, look, enough's enough. I need a striker. I can't do my job without one. And what was really interesting was in the article, it suggested that he didn't see Mikel Antonio as a sort of long-term solution for the rest of the season to lead the line. Now, that's no news to you and it's no news to me, but it's interesting to hear it being said. And I certainly got the impression that Lopetegui was very, very frustrated with the situation. I think it's a brave thing to do. This is not a man that's in a position of power at West Ham. I don't necessarily believe that it doesn't matter what he does between now and the new year. I think if he goes on a losing run, I think he loses his job. So I do think it's quite brave from a man in his position to say, look, I demand a striker. I can't have been the only person that thought, I wonder if he would walk. Now, listen, there will be, because he walked out, as we know, from Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I think he certainly did that in a bid to preserve his own reputation. Now, there will be a number of people who say, good, let him walk, go, he's useless. And I've been far from convinced about him. I'm struggling to see anything, team selections or tactically, that would suggest that maybe we were about to go on a bit of a winning run. That being said, even though I'm not convinced, even though it wasn't my choice to be manager, I do sort of get why he would come out fighting. And I've got a grudging respect for the fact that he has, because he has been the recipient of so much negative press recently that I sort of think, yeah, okay, mate, I absolutely get it. And what this does is it throws I think it throws the focus for the purchasing back onto Tim Steidten and onto the board, because if Lopetegui is, and he bloody well is, responsible for, the muddled tactics, be it against Tottenham or Chelsea or anyone else, if he's responsible for being slow with his substitutions, which he was against Tottenham, if he's responsible for all that type of stuff, which he is, he's not being held responsible for the transfers, and particularly not the transfer of Fullkrug. And it is increasingly looking to be like a really bad move. It has to be said. I'm sort of trying to mind my words and almost trying to dilute down what I was going to say. But there's no point. This is not good. It's not good for West Ham. Look, you got John Duran and you've got Samu Mamorodian knocking in goals for fun. He was at it again last night, Duran, by the way. They were apparently our first two top choice targets. Fullkrug was our third choice. We got him. It's not worked out, as I mentioned the other day. If it could well be that this guy's out for 3 months. That's a lot. I mean, it's even a lot as it is now. Comfortably, you say a couple of months by the looks of things at the moment. That's a lot for your new signing who's meant to sort of lead the line. And you spent a lot of money on him as well. Also, it had been suggested and reported a couple of days ago that one of the reasons that Borussia Dortmund sold Fullkrug was because of his fitness record. You couldn't guarantee his fitness. I think, they'd be quite pleased. It's like they sold us a crock, basically. Now, that's again, it's probably a little bit harsh words there, and I hope they're not the case. I want him to succeed. I want him to score goals for West Ham. I want him to be unplayable, this unplayable hulking beast that we were supposedly to have signed. But the fact that he's had to go back to Germany is not good, and I think it certainly begs an awful lot of questions as to what the bloody hell's wrong with our club doctors or treatment in the UK. Because, look, we've seen this stuff before. We have seen this stuff before with Maxwel Cornet, which... anyway, before I go any further, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. What is Surfshark? Surfshark is a VPN. What's a VPN? Well, it's the very thing that's going to protect your device, your mobile phone, whatever you are watching this video on. It's open to attack. Not physically, but cyber attack. It's open to hacking. It's open to snooping. A lot of people can browse at what you're doing. Now, that may not bother you if all you're doing is watching a Hammers Chat video where we're talking about a striker and an under-pressure manager, but there's other things that you do online. You do your banking online. You've got your passwords online. There's a lot of stuff online that you don't want people to get hold of. And one of the ways that you can stop them is by encrypting everything you do. And that's why you're going to need to get Surfshark. We've got a great offer at the moment. A link is in the description below, which hopefully you can see. It's surfshark.com/hammerschat. Hopefully you can see that just there underneath when I'm speaking at the moment. There's a link in the description. Click on that, please. I know you've come from Hammers Chat. 4 months free. Really, really good deal. I've been using it for 3 years now. One of the things I always wondered, I thought, will having a VPN slow my device? Will it slow my download speed and my upload speed? It doesn't. It just works. It sits there silently in the background, and what it does, there's a little dashboard there where you can ask it to do different things. It will detect different threats. It will detect just people trying to invade your privacy and take your personal details. It also allows you to change your geolocation so you can watch different things in different places, which ordinarily you would not be able to do if you were travelling around. Link is in the description below. Go and check it out. Even if you don't get Surfshark, you're going to need a VPN, particularly in this day and age. Right, back to the club doctors and the medical team. It's not for me. I don't particularly want to start calling out medical professionals and whatnot. It could well be that they're perfectly competent. It could well be that Fullkrug is making a mistake by going back to Germany. But we've seen Maxwel Cornet do it. You had him with his was a calf injury, wasn't it? Went over to France. Certainly irked David Moyes, who was our manager at the time, and you never felt that Cornet would ever recover, really. So I think that point of it is not particularly good at all. None of it's good at West Ham at the moment, no. It's safe to say that what we're overseeing a turbulent time, a really turbulent time, and it shouldn't be. This should have been a good times. This should have been happy days at the moment. Lopetegui, I can only assume, when this news was leaked from Lopetegui yesterday, that he was unhappy, he was demanding a striker, he was unhappy with the injury to Fullkrug, which by association was really him saying he was unhappy with the signing of Fullkrug. He would have known at that point. So even though the news has come out today that Fullkrug's going to Germany, Lopetegui would have known it yesterday. I don't actually blame him for leaking his unhappiness. That sounds disgusting. Actually, leaking your happiness is well, anyway, that doesn't matter. I should probably stop. My mind could go funny places sometimes. I certainly think that he's been the recipient. I mean, so for the last month, he's had to hear various media sources suggesting that Tim Steidten didn't pick him. He wasn't Tim Steidten's choice. You very much thought that to protect himself, Tim Steidten, it's almost like Tim Steidten knew that Lopetegui was going to fail. By the way, I believe that Lopetegui wasn't Tim Steidten's choice. I believe that. But I think Steidten's seen a drowning rat, basically, and what he's thought, I'm going to disassociate myself from this. I'm going to keep it at arm's length. So there's been reports that Steidten had nothing to do with the appointment and that he warned David Sullivan against appointing him. bearing in mind Steidten's distanced himself from Lopetegui, I can understand why now, when Lopetegui's got the opportunity to, that he's distancing himself from Steidten's signing. So Lopetegui's almost saying, that's nothing to do with me. So Steidten looking at Lopetegui saying, well, that's nothing to do with me. Lopetegui is looking at Fullkrug going, well, that's nothing to do with me. That's Tim's doing, that is. And this comes at the same time when West Ham are apparently, so this was in The Guardian yesterday, I think it was Jacob Steinberg, basically West Ham are going to launch an investigation. An investigation into what went wrong in the summer transfer window. Wow. I believe him. Look, if it was just somebody wrote a message yesterday about when I was talking about this, and they left a message on social media, and they said to me, "Oh, what are you honestly believing? Are you honestly believing everything Alex Crook says now? You're pathetic," or something along those lines. And the answer was no, I don't. But I'd never suggested I believed everything Alex Crook said. It's just that. It's what you call it. It's called quote mining. But I think when Alex Crook is saying something, I think when Jacob Steinberg's saying it, I think when the club start leaking stuff, I think when associates close to Lopetegui start leaking stuff, and I think when Steidten's guys are leaking stuff, then I think you can probably start to think that everything is not hunky-dory. Do you think everything is going brilliant at West Ham at the moment? Seriously? Or do you think there's some funny old stuff going on behind the scenes? I think there's some funny old stuff going on behind the scenes. And it's not good. It's not good. I mean, I suspect what we're seeing is a lot of people trying to distance themselves from what went wrong. So maybe the inquiry is the club trying to distance themselves from what went wrong in the transfer window. Seems like everybody's just looking after themselves at the moment. And that's not great. That's not great at all. It hints at a disconnected group of people at the club who are probably more concerned with self-preservation than they are with all getting together and figuring out how to make things work. Because, look, short of us being able to line up Daniel Kretinsky, David Sullivan, Tim Steidten and Julen Lopetegui, we're never going to know. We're never going to know. Right, so all we can do is take these snippets, right, and take these bits and from the pieces of the puzzle try and piece a picture together. Now, I would, if you were to ask me, which you've not, but I'll tell you anyway, if you were to ask me what do I believe is happening, do I believe that everybody is sort of looking after themselves and there's a lot of sniping and there's a blame game going on at West Ham? Or do I believe that, or do I believe that Lopetegui and that Steidten and that Sullivan are all sat down in a room saying, right, come on, how can we make this better? Let's work together and how can we improve things? Do I need to answer? I don't believe that. I don't believe that's happening at all. I believe the former. I don't know, as I say, because until anyone actually comes out and actually talks about this stuff. But it ain't good. It ain't good. There's a blame game going on. But before we get to that blame game, we've got Manchester United and we've got no striker. We got no Mohamed Kudus because I can't even bother to do a video about that yesterday, which is basically the FA are going to charge him with additional charges. The worst it could be, he doesn't play again until the 26th of December, Boxing Day. That's Boxing Day to you and me. That's against Southampton. The best it can be is if they don't add any games on, which I think they probably might, because we've been charged with improper conduct and violent conduct. The best is he will be back for Newcastle on November the 25th. That's sketchy. And make no mistake about it, if he's any longer than that, he's not going to be fit anyway when he comes back. Unless, I don't know, I'm not sure if you can arrange a behind closed doors game when you're on a ban. I suspect you can't, but I don't know. Don't take my word from that. I'm no authority on that. I think, let's just, before I finish up, violent conduct, are you sure? I do think he deserved to be sent off. He lost his mind, he really did. But honestly, the way they went down, I'll allow Richarlison because I actually just think that was an accident. And I think his hooter got hit. I think if anyone hits you on the side of the head, I don't think Kudus meant to headbutt him, and I don't think Richarlison meant to to nudge his not insignificant hooter on to Kudus, right? But I think if someone headbutt, even though if we accept it was an accident, even an accidental headbutt to the nose is going to hurt. So we'll allow him. He's allowed. He can go down. Van de Ven, come on, mate. You know, honestly, it's not. It's not acceptable. Honestly, it really isn't. So it wasn't violence. I think one of them was an accident. There was a bit of push, a bit of a shove. George Groves and Carl Froch there. A little push and a pull. I doubt anyone knows what I'm talking about there, unless you're a boxing fan. Maybe you do. It wasn't violent. It wasn't violent. It was shirty. It was a tantrum. There was a lot of things. It was not violence. Honestly, it really wasn't. I don't think that matters. My opinion doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter whether I think the force was enough to have Van de Ven writhing around, looking like he was in agony, like knocked over. That doesn't matter. They're not going to look at that. I just don't feel that panel will say, should he have really fallen over there? You know, and I know. It's not. It just wouldn't knock you off your feet, that impact. So I just don't think it was particularly violent. Ill-advised, yes. And I do think he's let the club down by it. There's no doubt about that. It really has. But anyway, there you go. Sorry, waffling on as I usually do. Right, we'll be back tomorrow with some happier news. Unlikely.